As a man growing up in that Mennonite culture and having someone serve you, there's a lot of things I just didn't know. Real talk, I didn't know how to operate a washing machine. I didn't know how to do my own laundry, make the bed, do the dishes, things like that. And as we've journeyed through this, and as you have learned to use your voice and what you're okay with doing and not, it's been a learning experience for me too. Just realizing how privileged or like how I've been taken care of, and it hasn't been good for me as a person.
Where I started to realize, so again, looking to our background, I was raised submissive, I was raised to serve, I was raised to please, to perform all these things. And then you can just imagine getting into lifestyle, it triggered all the performing, all the pleasing, all the perfecting, all those things for others. And one day I remember just sitting back and going, nobody is going to benefit unless I am happy. And I realized I have got to quit saying yes to events or situations or scenarios. Like he would come in, he'd say, hey, let's do this. And I would just, to please him or to perform, I'd say yes. And all of a sudden I realized if anything is ever going to work, my yes has got to be honest and authentic. And so I had to pull back all my yeses that I'd been giving him and start to really sit with it and ask myself, do I really want to do this? Is this really going to make me happy? Or do I need to just say no?
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 330. We're Finn and Emma, and today we bring back Jill and Jack. They were originally on the podcast back in episode 97 in November 2019. So it's been over 4 years. And we're so excited to have them back today.
Yeah, as we talk about, it has been over 4 years since we heard their official story, but they're actually record setters.
I know.
This is their 9th time coming on the podcast. And we talk a little bit about that later, but you will hear us talk about some things like Power of Witness and Focus Fridays. So those are series we ran a long time ago. You can definitely check those out there on our website under the podcast tab. There's a couple of sub tabs. One says Power of Witness. One says Focus Fridays.
Yes. And Jill and Jack were on episodes for both of those. And the links will be in the show notes for the episode too.
Yeah. And a quick note about Power of Witness. That program was offered by Catherine through Expansive Connection, which is coaching and therapy practice. And we've worked with Catherine for a long time. We just wanted to make a quick note that they are no longer doing the exact Power of Witness model that they've done before, but they're still offering different courses, and you can find out all of that in the podcast player show notes, which links will take you directly to their website.
Yes. And the courses are very similar, just not quite exactly the same.
Yes. Okay. Back to Jack and Jill.
Yes.
So excited.
They're back today.
Sorry, Jack and Jill, we got sidetracked. We are super excited to have you two back. This is a beautiful, beautiful conversation. I think the easiest way to sum it up is over the last 4+ years since we've talked to them, they've been doing some work.
Yes. So much work.
And maybe we just leave it with that. They've busted their asses to be where they are today, and it's beautiful.
They give us just an incredible update of all of the work that they've done over the last 4 years and the things that have changed and impacted them and where they're at today in their relationship. We won't give any spoilers away, so you're going to have to listen. But yes, thank you so much, Jack and Jill, for coming back on and sharing everything that you have.
I will say, too, if you haven't listened to the first one, definitely do, but you do not need to. This one stands on its own, and it is powerful beyond belief. So thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jack, for being here. So grateful.
Yes. For anyone who's a premium subscriber, we're going to jump right into the interview with Jill and Jack now. And for anyone else, we're going to go through our announcements. First up, if you're not familiar with a premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, but still jump right into the interview and get important dates in the outro. I had a brain fart. I was like, what am I saying?
Yeah, if you sign up for the premium subscription, you do not get brain farts. Those are not included.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and scroll down on the homepage, and you can find out right there. Also, while you're over on our website, you can sign up for our next virtual meet and greet. It's tomorrow, March 7th, 2024. I almost said 2023. I'm on a roll this morning.
Yeah. By the way, those brain farts, those that you don't get, those are Emma's. You still have your own. we can't protect you from your own brain fart.
Anyway, the virtual meet and greets are a incredible way to meet like-minded people. They're open to anyone as long as you're open-minded and respectful. And we just have 2 hours of super
brain fart.
So much fun. You're just going to keep calling me out on these, aren't you?
I didn't call you out on the first two.
I called myself out.
I thought that's the thing we were doing.
All right. Well, tell them what they can expect at the virtual meet.
You can expect to meet amazing people from all over the world. We bring everybody together in a giant Zoom group, and we do some quick intros, and then we start asking you questions that help you get to know people better. We put you in small groups. We do that over and over, and we ask a question. You have like 6-7 minutes to talk about it. We scramble the group, new question, scramble, new question. Everybody has a great time, parties. Laugh.
Parties?
Everybody parties.
Oh, okay.
We have parties. Don't try to make your brain farts contagious.
Okay.
I sniffed it and now it's in my brain. Okay.
The bottom line is...
You want to join us.
Yeah,
We'll see you tomorrow. Head over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the events tab or the big banner at the top. Sign up and we'll see you there.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
Next up, our virtual community. That is the place where we have almost over 300 people.
Brain fart.
Yeah. We have a lot of people who hang out every day and support one another. Many of them got their start in the virtual meet and greet. And you will see many of them at the virtual meet and greet. This is a place for community, connection, support, love, and a little bit of sexiness and laughter at the same time. You can find out more under the community tab of our website. It is just $5 a month, and we would love to have you join us.
Yes.
That's the bulk of that one.
Yes. Next up, while you're on our website, we keep talking about our website because there's a lot of information there. You can go over to the resources tab and find our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. You hear about us talk about it every week, and it is our favorite way to get tested. It is the service that Finn and I use. It is really fast and simple, discreet, and at only $129, you can get a 10-panel test. And actually that price is using the links on our webpage, gives you a $10 discount. And supports the podcast.
I will say one other quick thought about STD Check is we've seen a pretty big increase over the last couple of weeks in people using the service, which is amazing. So I just want to say, you don't want to get left behind.
Right.
All your friends are going to be bragging about it. It's like the I voted stickers, but it says I got tested at stdcheck.com because of Emma. And it's a big sticker.
It's a big sticker.
There's a lot of stuff on it, but it's worth it. All right. Last up, we just wanted to say, please reach out to us, send us an email, send us a voicemail. We would love to have you come on the show to share your story. We would love to have you reach out to us. You don't have to be anybody other than your amazing self. We would love to have you come on. We've got some other amazing interviews coming up in the next few weeks from people just like you, person who is just an amazing person without anything to promote. So we invite you and your amazing story on to help others feel less alone.
And with that, let's go and talk with Jill and Jack.
We're just jumping in. Okay. We'll do our friends catch up later, but welcome back, Jill and Jack.
Good to be back.
It's been so long, and I'm so excited to talk today.
Yep, it's really good to be back.
Yeah, we were just saying before I hit record frantically that this conversation brings you to tied for first with Catherine for most appearances on our podcast, but we haven't talked to you since let's call it November 2019, about your true story. Since then, we've talked about shame. You came on for 6 episodes of Power of Witness. So this makes 9 times we've talked to you on the podcast, which is
Wow. I did not realize that.
I didn't either.
But even Power of Witness was January 2021. So it's been a few years.
It has.
and I missed it because we didn't hit record fast enough. But you said you've gone born again Christian full circle,
No.
and you're back here. You're to convince us we're in the wrong now. Yeah.
We're here to minister to you and your listeners.
Perfect. Well, we're ready. So buckle up, everybody. It's time for a sermon.
Yeah, and even listeners can't see it. My eyes are still brown, so you can't take much of what I say too serious.
Fair enough. Well, maybe it would be wonderful to have you two reintroduce yourselves, and also just thank you for letting us dive right in, and we'll catch up after this because there's too much we don't want to have to restate. So welcome back.
Thank you. I'm Jill, and been married to Jack now for over 22 years. The last 5 of them have been in the lifestyle, and there's been a lot of fun times and a lot of not so fun times. We think we're pretty perfect already. No, I'm kidding. I'll hand it over to Jack.
Well, I'm Jack. Yeah, Jill did great on the specifics of how long we've been married and things like that. But yeah, we've since our first episode. That's crazy. Our first trip to Desire was in April of 2019, and we jumped on the podcast in November. We didn't realize at that point I mean, we just came out of the honeymoon phase of our journey, and we're hitting the real world, as it were, in it. And that was a big time of growth, and it's got a lot more fun since then. So,
And you throw like a global pandemic in there too,
Yeah.
just to make things easier.
Yeah.
exactly. You know
I
what?
love that the answer is just yeah. Yeah.
That was really good for us. We were really questioning at that point whether the lifestyle was right for us and a lot of things in our relationship. And it allowed us to just pause and take a breath and figure out what we really wanted.
Yeah.
Both in our relationship and the lifestyle and all of that. So
I love that. Well, let's go back in time then a little bit. But before we do, it'd be wonderful to give people like a super high level overview of who Jill and Jack are and why we were joking about you coming full circle on being born again Christians. What has been the journey that led you here? And then we'll pick it up from there.
So we were both born and raised into conservative Mennonite culture. We left that culture 10 years ago. And to give a little bit of background, I wore homemade home sewn dresses and a cap over my long hair. It was all, I didn't have long hair showing. So we were virgins when we got married. I was 21, he was 20, and we didn't kiss till after we were outside of the church, after we said our vows. So that's a little bit of background.
yeah.
What else?
So-
is there to say?
That sets the stage for.
So you left the that structure, I guess, for lack of a better word, in 2014, about 10 years ago ish. And then kind of high level overview, what happened next?
Since then, okay. So then went to what we call the undercover Baptist church. We were in that for 4 years. I was a deacon. We were leading home groups. Like we were, especially me, I was really dug in, at least on the surface. But what people didn't know, Jill included, is that I was getting happy eating massages with that no one knew about. And that just like that whole double life was tearing me up. And so when that came out, I was no longer a deacon, which that was okay. But it really, it started this whole unraveling process of both religion and of what we wanted our marriage to look like, what we were okay with, because we had a conversation and we're exploring what, at that point we were still, what is sin, what's not, things like that. And I'm like, Jill, I don't feel bad about getting the massages and the sexual part of it. I feel bad that I wasn't being truthful with you. I was withholding that information. And that's what got us started and digging into the lifestyle, and blew our minds what was available, as far as clothing optional resorts, and then learning about the lifestyle and things like that. And that's what got us in.
Well, and the greatest thing so what he said to me in that time was he didn't feel bad about the action, but the lack of communication. And the last 5 years have been a crash course, a PhD in learning to communicate. And it's been absolutely magnificent.
It has.
And I will say too, what actually started it is, so we were talking about whether, and I know I shared this last time, but I'll give it again. We were talking about, was this sin or not sin? And somewhere's in there, I looked at Jack and I said, well, I'd just like to know that other men would like to fuck me. Well, that's all the invitation. I said it theoretically. I just needed the information.
For the guys out there, she didn't say the word theoretically, so I didn't put that to you.
But he took that as an open invitation to help me discover whether that was the truth, whether, crudely put, other men would like to fuck me. It has been an incredibly fun 5 years.
So, Jill, have you had that question answered?
Yeah. That question's been answered. It's been answered, yes.
I love that. Well, and I just wanted to touch on one thing, because I think, and I know we talked about this in your first episode, and I highly, highly recommend people go back and listen, because it is an absolutely beautiful conversation and journey to pick up here. But Jack, you said, like, well, I didn't necessarily feel bad about the actions. I felt bad about the communication. I'm curious for you, Jill, and I think this is often what we hear around an infidelity, is it's not typically the thing that happened. It's that there was deceit, that there wasn't communication, that there was lying. But I'm curious, on your end, was like the shift from there was just sort of an infidelity to, well, I'm curious if guys want to fuck me. Like that's a big jump. I guess, did you feel that it was the actions weren't really the problem, but the communication and the lying or the trust, and that you were maybe somewhat equally interested in exploring some of that as well?
Gotcha. Yes. I never felt like the actions were a betrayal to me or to our relationship. I felt like we were partners. What the fuck do you think you were doing without letting me in on this? And even though I've had a lot of shame and I've had a lot to overcome in my sexuality, there was absolute curiosity there. And there was just that part too of him and I have done so much, kind of where we've got each other's back. And he just went out on his own and, didn't let me in on this part. So yes, the big part was feeling left out, and like he got to experience something like this. And like, was I just destined to be the frumpy stay-at-home mom? Because that's sort of also where that question of, did other guys find me attractive? I had never experienced any male attraction, because it was never I know there was the creepy kind that was shame-filled and disgusting. So I think I was, without having the words back then, I was ready to experience my own sexuality too. And I viewed him as going, what, you get to do this and I don't.
Yeah. I love that. And I love your question too, Jack. Have you had that question answered? And I think maybe that is maybe a great place to like pick it back up, is like where, after we talked to you too, right? Emma mentioned global pandemic, and that sounds like that also really solidified your relationship in some way.
That did, and also the power. So we did Power of Witness with Catherine. We were in the inaugural one, and then we came on the podcast and did that one. And both of those Power of Witness, that we uncovered a big thing in our relationship, that I was the gas pedal and Jill was the brakes. And that, like that, along with some other stuff that had happened, was and just before the pandemic. Well, you know what? We're real and transparent people. I had been unfaithful again, even in the lifestyle. There was things that happened that we were not communicating on, and I just went ahead and did. And that was a big change. Like, I thought that time that Jill was going to leave. Like, I'd crossed a line, not meaning to, but by my actions, that I'd crossed a line, that she was gonna leave me. And what I realized in that moment was I had 1 foot in the relationship and 1 foot out.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were going to do this, I needed to be all in. And so there was that. And then with the Power of Witness, but then I was all in, but then I was still, oh, let's do this, let's do that. Come on, let's go. And Jill is more, she's got to think things through a bit, or she's got to find her own truth in life and in a relationship. And by me always pushing stuff, she felt like she had to.
Well, I felt like Jack was a shooting star, and if I just hooked my wagon to his shooting star, we were just going to burn up and, be ash very quickly. So constantly holding back, pulling back, being the not just the voice of reason, but hey, we've got kids, we've got business, we can't go. We're going to burn up. We're going to burn out. And so I couldn't relax and have fun, because I felt like I was constantly pulling back, and he couldn't really relax and have fun because he was pushing so hard. And that's what we discovered on the Power of Witness, was that dynamic of a gas and brake. And I'm like, pretty much we stood and looked at each other. He's like, well, if you'd let off the brake, I'd let off the gas. And I'm like, yeah, no. Like, it's kind of like we had to synchronize our letting go of our forms of control, because he wasn't about to let off the gas. He thought we'd completely bog down in the mud if he let off the gas, and I wasn't about to let off on the brake, because we were going to go shoot over the cliff, and there was no safety net. So we had a lot of conversations around, taking our feet off the gas and the brake simultaneously, so we could start to trust each other in that phase. And that's where communication came in. So much communication, hours and hours of talking.
Yeah.
And talking in a way that was more real. Like, at that point, how many years have we been married? 18.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always been best friends. We've been great partners, and we thought we communicated. But actually learning how to communicate outside of a codependent relationship, where I'm not just over in his puddle making sure he's okay and making sure he's happy, and he's not over in mine, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm enthralled, because this is very
relatable.
Very relatable. So you just keep on going, Jill. You're doing an amazing job.
I also want to comment, like, what you describe. You say it so, like, I don't know, it's succinctly. And I know in the day-to-day, it was likely hard as hell.
Well, yeah, it's so easy. You just let up on the gas, and I'll simultaneously let up on the brake, and our car will slow down, and we'll be happy, right? It's that easy.
No, I'll be honest. There's a portion of the highway that we still look at each other and laugh, and we're like, "Are we good?" Because there was a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the city where we go to a lot of events, or used to go to a lot of events in, there was a portion of that road we'd get on, and like at one point you threatened to jump out, and I offered to unlock the door for you. I think
we're both a little dramatic that way.
But yeah,
And one of the biggest things, and I think it was in like 2020, maybe it was 2021, where I started to realize, so again, looking to our background, I was raised submissive. I was raised to serve. I was raised to please, to perform all these things. And then you can just imagine getting into lifestyle. It triggered all the performing, all the pleasing, all the perfecting, all those things for others. And one day I remember just sitting back and going, nobody is going to benefit unless I am happy. And I realized, like, I have got to quit saying yes to events or situations or scenarios. Like, he would come in and he'd say, hey, let's do this. And I would just, to please him or to perform, I'd say yes. And all of a sudden I realized, if anything is ever going to work, my yes has got to be honest and authentic. And so I had to pull back all my yeses that I'd been giving him and start to like really sit with it and ask myself, like, do I really want to do this? Is this really going to make me happy? Or do I need to just say no? So I really had to sit with the whole lifestyle thing at that point and ask myself, did I want to continue or did I want to say no? Well, obviously the answer was no. I'm still curious. I'm still, I definitely I don't ever want to give up trips to Desire or some, those types of vacations. And so I had to get really clear on my yes and get authentic. Understand why was I even saying yes to a lot of Jack's requests or.
No, I love what you're saying, Joe. I think that what's so interesting is the part where, right, you feel like you really had to investigate the yes, but deep down you're like, well, I still want something here, right? It's not like you were saying, I don't want to explore this. I don't want to explore my sexuality.
Which if you had decided that was the case, that would be obviously okay too.
For sure. But you're stuck in that place of, I want that, but not like this.
Yes. And so then it's on the path of figuring out, okay, then what is it what is my path through this?
Yeah.
Which I imagine just super easy, like speaking from experience on my own too.
So, yeah, where are you going to go with this?
Well, I'd like to talk about my part of it a little bit before we get into that. Like, it's been interesting, like, as a man growing up in that Mennonite culture and having someone serve you, like, there's a lot of things I just didn't know. Like, real talk, I didn't know how to operate a washing machine. I didn't know how to do my own laundry, make the bed, do the dishes, things like that. And as we've journeyed through this, and as you have learned to use your voice and what you're okay with doing and not, it's been a learning experience for me too. Just realizing how privileged or like how I've been taken care of, and it hasn't been good for me as a person. And so that's been my journey too and like the thing is, you take, like, in the lifestyle, the events that I would be pushing for and you would be hesitant on, there was usually a good reason. And as you've learned to communicate it, as we've learned how to communicate, Jill, what's going on there? Why don't you want to go to this? Or and there's times that we talk through it and yeah, it's a hell yes, let's go. And there's other times that it's an event or a couple or a single where that your intuition has been great, because I'm still tended to be full speed ahead and we'll figure out the details later.
Yeah.
And we've learned how in our relationship to use our strengths rather than fighting against our weaknesses.
One of the biggest things that I have learned and he has given me the gift of trusting me on is my intuition. And that has been just a crazy, wild experience because, like he said, there have been couples or singles or events where everything in me is putting on the brakes. And I've, the old stories in my head are like, well, you're just no fun. And you're just such a, you're just such a lame party pooper. And so I've had to speak that to him and say, I don't know what's going on, but I have a lot of hesitation in saying yes to this scenario or this event. And we've just, and there's been times when we could go to an event and then we would feel the vibe or the energy and we'd go, yeah, like this is totally not our vibe. And so it's helped us learn to trust each other in the intuitive part and go like clean up our I don't know what to, like we used to kind of have to run and experience everything because, well, what if we missed out on something, or what if this was our vibe? And now we're much more calm and confident that we can feel our vibe sometimes right through a text or, however the party is maybe set up, we go, yeah, it's not our vibe. So a lot of maturity there.
Yeah. Yeah, so relatable, and it's something that we've said for a long time, which is that I think early on when people get into non-monogamy, I think in all forms, but primarily we experienced this in the swinging, which was this like scarcity mindset that if somebody reaches out and wants to see you, like, when will this ever happen again? I have to do it. Or, oh shit, there's a party. When will there ever be another party? Well, next fucking month, just like there was one last month, right? And so, yeah, or next week, right? And so, but that mindset is just like, well, it's exciting. I want to try it out. I want to experience it all. Or at least that's often my mindset. It sounds like Jack and I
Totally.
we share that, like, and I just want to reflect too. I think there's some element of that those spaces for me typically were never scary. I could feel confident going in, even if it was going to be a crappy, experience. I'm like, well, whatever, we'll go and have a good time with it. But right, that's a whole lot of privilege for me as a guy in a white male body showing up in a space like that. That's way different than what Emma was showing up, and I didn't have any wherewithal to comprehend that back then.
Yeah.
Just the levels of safety that we both felt in those spaces, and what way people looked at us, way people touched us. It was very different experiences.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that, just for other moms and women out there, like for me, the cost of leaving home, finding a babysitter and going to an event that was potentially very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it meant a hotel, it meant a really late night, and me getting a babysitter. And there was just so much emotional head work that went into planning for this. And then if the event was just, kind of a wash, learning to communicate to Jack and him stepping into that acceptance. Oh, for me, Jill, to put all that effort in and then feel like we just kind of came home and had a super late night and a lot of expense, and there was no return on investment. That was just huge. And I didn't know how to say that in the beginning. I didn't have words for that. There's a lot of emotional work that goes into me getting to that party and being ready to party and play, whatever that looked like at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's one other part I wanted to touch on, and that is, Jack, you kind of said a few times, like, and Jill, you too, is saying, Jill had to really find her voice in this. And I think just, again, recognizing a lot of parallels, it's also Jill finding her voice, but also being able to hear that voice, right? I think primarily when you're the hard gas pedal, you listen, I think for myself, right? I listen to other hard gas pedals much easier. People who come in passively making a suggestion that's a little bit wishy-washy, I think my brain really quickly sorts that to, like, they're not serious, so I'm just going to do my own shit, and they can either get on, right? Or something along those lines. I don't have the exact phrasing of what actually happens, but being able to slow down and listen to somebody who's not as confident of a yes or a no or in their path, like having to really slow down to listen to that. I'm just curious for you, Jack, does any of that ring a bell? Like the way you listen to Jill versus the way you listen to some other, I don't like the word alpha male, but some other like strong personality.
I wish the audience could have watched me nod emphatically the whole time you were talking, because that's totally, yeah, that's been the journey. And like, even so, we had a couple reach out. I mean, we had a couple reach out, or I've been. I still primarily do the chatting on the apps and stuff like that, and let and then Jill looks on over my shoulder, and we make decisions and stuff like that. But there's been this couple that's been reaching out, and they were coming to our town, which we're away from the major population centers close to us. And that's one of my triggers is, okay, like, they're going to be here. Like, they wanted to meet for a late lunch today. And we, in amongst kids and all the stuff we had going yesterday, I brought it up several times, and bedtime hits. Jill usually goes to bed before I do. And we hadn't got an answer, or we hadn't made a final decision. And I woke up this morning and realized, okay, we haven't let them know yet whether we can make it or not. And I just made the decision, look, it's not going to work today. And it's so, yes, I totally get that, Finn. Like, that's a journey that I'm on too, is I actually get to check in. Like, do I really want this? Does it really make sense with what life, like, in listening to that not as strong voice of Jill, it's got me in touch with my side of going, you know what? She doesn't have to be the decision maker for the fun. Like, I can, if I really feel strongly that we should do this, I'm going to speak up. But on this deal here, it wasn't in the cards. It wasn't going to work.
Well, actually, what has happened is we've both become like 100% more intuitive. So I kind of started that intuitive feeling, but Jack here he's just as intuitive as me. Like, I think often people go, the feminine is more intuitive. I don't feel that way. It's just that often, or I would say often, it looks like the masculine just lets the feminine do that intuitive work. And the more that we grow and mature in this all, Jack, just like the scenario he just explained, like, he is learning to go, look at everything we have on our plate, and without asking me, he's going, yeah. And, probably the reason that we hadn't gotten an answer yet, that, we hadn't come to it, was because we were juggling too many things. And though we both wanted it, I would have loved to have met up with them.
Oh, we will. We will.
Yeah. But, when there's that many juggling, and that's where he's starting to go, oh, we've got a lot on our plate. Yeah, no, we've got to pass this time. So his intuitive speaking voice is also rising hugely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's just this pattern, this sequence that you're talking about. Again, Emma and I would say we go through this a lot, not necessarily with other couples, but just in general, right? That, hey, we should do this. And then there's not necessarily an answer. And it's that, like, well, I need an answer. Maybe I'm the one who's having to reach out to somebody. And so it is relatable, but then it's so easy, right, in that moment to take and shift all of the responsibility to one or the other and say, well, this got messed up because Jill didn't give a firm answer, or Jack was pushing too hard, versus saying, okay, Jill maybe didn't give quite the firmest answer she could have, and I pushed a little more, but, like, maybe if we both just slow down a little, we can step back and go, what's actually happening here? Maybe we're juggling too much. Jill's overwhelmed. I'm anxious because I want to get an answer to these people. And really, none of this is a recipe for a fun afternoon.
Yeah.
And it's maybe going to ruin the next 3 days as well from the fallout. So why don't we just reassess? But to be able to do it in the moment is damn near impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're not alone in it.
Right. It's good work. Good work. Listen, I feel like, I don't know. That's different. It's like, just like the whole concept of listening to your intuition.
Yeah.
Feels like it's such a basic concept.
Right.
And it's hard as hell, and something that almost feels like it gets, like, socially conditioned out of us because we have to do certain things and feel like, so it's coming back to that is so important for every single person. But the work to do that is really difficult.
Well, I think that a huge part of becoming a healthy, intuitive person is having your emotional state or status current. I could never be intuitive when I had 20 years of pent up, unfelt, unresolved emotion within me, because I didn't know if what I was feeling in my gut was anger or resentment at Jack for 5 years ago or 3 months ago, or was it 20 years ago? So as I have become emotionally healthy and emotionally current, that's when I could finally become intuitive, because I know that between him and I, we're current. I'm not carrying any 20-year baggage of resentment or frustration towards him, because we've learned how to communicate all those past years of stuffed emotion that we had in our relationship. And so now if my gut's kind of going, they always say it's a gut feeling, right? I go, okay, something's off here. And I let Jack know. I'm like, hey, something isn't feeling right. I'm open to your feelings, your suggestions, and we have a great conversation. And it's called living in the moment, right? And it's just incredibly powerful when we can clean up our emotional status and then live intuitively.
And I'm curious, I love that. And I'm curious how, I guess, suggestions for how you did that, because just moving, working through all of that is incredibly difficult too. And I just as listeners, I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds great. And how do I do that?
Yeah. Or how did you do it?
Yeah.
Or how are you doing it? Because that's probably never done.
It's a continual process.
Well, him and I both have a great therapist who has helped us start to name and feel our feelings. Gotta love that. Another huge part of it for me has been allowing my anger and resentment to have a voice. And I will often write. I will write down, I just puke write. And the one time that I did do this is, coming from where we come from, I had a lot of anger at being a submissive woman and having, the word, having the patriarchy controlling over me. And one day I just remember I was alone in the house, and I just felt that rage at the patriarchy roll over me. And I'm like, okay, it is time to deal with this. Cause I had been, I'd been stepping into that emotional awareness of that rage. And so I started writing on sticky notes all the men that had made me, that I just let it all bubble through me. And then I experienced the rage, and then I burned all those Post-it notes. And then I was like, I can close this chapter of rage now. So for me, that was how I went about feeling it, experiencing it. It was men from when I was a very young kid that came up in that moment. And so that sounds very simple in a way, but if you've ever just let your rage roll, the thing is with emotions is we just get to be the observer. And I knew that, I was like, I'm going to feel this rage. It doesn't mean I have to break windows. It doesn't mean I have to beat Jack up or anybody else, but I need to feel this. It needs to roll through me completely for me to be able to close that chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And I love that suggestion. That's what worked for you. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of stuff that we've done, and that continues to evolve and to grow. And I mean, yeah, I'd echo, therapy. I am such a big fan and believer of therapy, life coaching. We've done personal development seminars, and there's, there's things that we've taken from all of that and put in our toolbox, our emotional toolbox of how to work with things like that. For me, one of and I don't know, this may be skipping ahead in the story somewhat, but
just go there.
A year and a half ago, we're from Oklahoma, and the lifestyle scene is interesting here. Facebook groups, private Facebook groups, is where we meet a lot of our potential friends and playmates and things like that. And I started flirting with this couple and thinking, at that point we'd go do dinner dates with couples and see if there was a connection and things like that. We were big on connection, which we still are, but it's changed a lot. But anyways, they invited us to a house party that they were having, and we had never been to a house party. Showed up, and there were 3 rules or 3 things that the hosts wanted us to know. And one is that these were play forward parties. You didn't have to play, but most people there was going to be a lot of sex happening. And there's bi guys there. If people are uncomfortable with guys playing with each other, it's probably not the place for you. And also that was the second thing they wanted us to know. And the third was there were going to be party favors like MDMA, mushrooms, things like that. And so we had never been around that stuff. Went to the first party, had a blast. We'd got a hotel because that's just what we were used to doing if we were out of town. And had a blast, played more, connected more with people in 2-3 hours than we'd ever done at anything else lifestyle that we'd done to that point. And headed back to the hotel. And I mean, the next week talked nonstop about this party and how amazing it was and all this stuff. Didn't try any of the party favors. We brought our alcohol. At that point, I was drinking heavily, and at that point in my life, and then we went back to another small party a month later, and we tried MDMA or Molly, and I mean, and the hostess, she we were on the fence whether we were going to do it or not, and I'll never forget. She put her hand on both of us. She's like, "Look, I don't want to be pushy, but she's like, I know where you guys come from, and I know I come from similar things, and what MDMA has done for me in the last year, you would not recognize who I am." And so we're like, okay, let's try it. We're in a safe place. We trusted these people, and we had a lot of judgment. I had a lot of judgments about drugs, air quote drugs, and we took it. And Jill is having the time of her life, getting all the confirmation
on that original question.
Fuck you.
I feel myself blushing.
And Jack, meanwhile, is laying in a corner, falling in love with myself. I still don't have words for it. I laid in the corner and felt so accepted, like self-acceptance, and like never before. And woke up the next morning, and we still went to a hotel that night. Woke up the next morning, and our usual thing: go out for brunch, have some mimosas, and then head back. Drive 2 hours home. And went to the restaurant and went to order a mimosa. I'm like, man, I just don't feel like it. Okay, interesting. Get home and go to the fridge to get my beer. I was drinking probably 6 to 8 alcoholic drinks per night at that point. And went to the fridge and didn't feel like having a beer, so went inside and got some water or something, I don't know, and woke up the next morning. I'm like, holy crap, I just had my first dry day in I don't know how long. And something about that MDMA and the mind, the space it put me into, it totally changed my relationship with alcohol. And like now I'll drink when I want to, but it's like 4 times a month. And so the psychedelics, the MDMA, things like that, and we've explored some of that since then. That has also been like all these concepts, all this intuition, all the things those substances have really opened up my mind.
Yeah, we probably should have started the whole podcast off kind of with that, because we were doing really, really great work. I say we were laying the foundation, and then with these psychedelics, I tell you what, our world of healing, our shame and past patterns, like us, you guys knowing where we come from, we had some pretty deeply ingrained beliefs and patterns like that, and psychedelics have definitely fast forwarded. And I want to be clear, this is our journey. Like,
yeah,
not here to recommend.
Yeah.
Didn't go into it expecting this at all. But the rewiring of the brain that we've both experienced has been huge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful that you two shared that. And I want to pick at it a little bit, but I think, this is a great time to say, yes, again, this is your journey. This is not you should all go try drugs and do the things. Obviously, figure out your own journey, your own comfort level, your own intuition, your own safety. Please, please, please.
Yes.
Yes, because please take care of yourselves. This is not an endorsement to go do that. This is your journey.
Yeah.
I feel safer there.
Totally want to echo that. I wanted to share that because it's my experience.
Yeah.
It is not something for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, without a doubt. And I want to keep going on that thread a little bit, but there was a question that had been coming up for me that I think maybe ties into it, which is sort of the analogy around like the car is broken and we're driving down the highway trying to fix the car while we're driving it. And that's a really hard thing to do. And I'm curious, for the last few years, as you two have been working on the communication, you did the Power of Witness, even through the pandemic and all of that, was there a point at which you pulled the metaphorical non-monogamy car over and parked it and said, let's work on the communication without that as a stressor? Or were you sort of like, we need a little bit of that tension to do this? I'm just curious how those two were woven together through that time.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Jill. Here's my thoughts. So in 2020, right as the pandemic was hitting, we did pause somewhat, and then your mom passed away June of 21, and that summer we really didn't get out. We didn't, and your mom passed away, and business was just crazy, and we basically did not do anything non-monogamous.
Well, up until the party in end of October.
September.
End of September. So from mom's passing in June. So there was a 3-4 month break there.
It wasn't like we literally coasted to the side of the road, but it's fascinating how the universe or how life just it's given us those rest areas, those breaks, without us even realizing what they were about, and then it's been good.
Yeah, we've never really had the conversation where we're like, okay, whoa, like you say, park this bus. We've never had that conversation. And I think it was, again, because we both have known that, how do I put it into words? That we're not like as soon as we dove into this mindset around non-monogamy, we both knew that we were never monogamous in the beginning. So to park that bus was pointless and step back into monogamy as the world views it or defines it. We've never been that. And the minute that we recognized that there was such a thing as non-monogamy, especially ethical non-monogamy, I think it was just such a relief, because we both had, it has never been something that felt right to us. I'll go again. Monogamy is a system, and systems aren't bad, but Jack and I are someone like it was kind of like when we 10 years ago, when we left the religious system, you can't unsee what you've seen. And for us to I think we've questioned every single system that we're a part of in those last 10 years. And again, this is our journey. I don't think everybody needs to question every system for them to have a rich, fulfilling life. But for us, I questioned the marriage before we ever even found non-monogamy. I had been looking at it and I'm like, well, this is just dumb, because it's, to a degree, there can be a part of of it just being an ownership. Like, I always think about this part of, well, who gives this woman in marriage? Like, as if I'm a piece of land that gets transferred from, my father to the next. That was my way of looking at it. So I had questioned it long before that. So to stop our non-monogamy journey and sit back in monogamy was never our path, because we had questioned it long before we'd ever gotten into that vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, which makes sense. And it also makes sense how like the breaks and the gaps kind of that you experienced allowed some of that space to kind of process through some of that in real time without actively speeding down the highway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And, and we're in a very, like what we were talking when we were off air a bit. We've got 3 kids. They've all got stuff going. We live an hour and a half to 2 hours from most of the events and couples that we're friends with. So it's a time commitment for us. We're not the every weekend or every, like, we keep up with our friends, or we message quite a bit. We chat quite a bit separately and together with the people that matter to us. But as far as boots on the ground, being in person, I mean, that's happening once a month, if we're
or
lucky.
every 6 weeks.
Yeah, once a month, every 6 weeks. So it's not. And again, for listeners, this is our journey. Like, if you need to step out of that vehicle, every one of us gets to figure out this journey for ourselves. And if we're in a relationship, what's best for that relationship or relationships? Like, that's what free will and autonomy actually look like. Is, I hope our journey helps others. That's both of our passions. But at the end of the day, it's Finn and Emma, your relationship and the other relationships you have, that's up to you to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and for years I've been saying I'm pro relationship. I'm not pro marriage. So, like, if you're married and your relationship is toxic and narcissistic and abusive, I get out.
Yeah.
If it's controlling and you don't see a way forward, that's not relationship. That's bondage, or it's harmful. And so that's how Jack and I look at our relationship, is how can we better what we have going between us. And it's not about the marriage holding us together. It's about our relationship holding us together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it also sounds like it's about each of you discovering a bit of yourselves, right?
Well,
Jill finding more of your own, Jack laying in a corner finding himself and falling in love with himself. Like, you two have been on gigantic personal journeys over the last few years as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how, over the last, let's say, year and a half, we'll call it. And I know it's not been like, well, a year and a half ago the shift happened, but it sounds like there was a big inflection point at that point for both of you that had been building. How has that shown up for each of you as you've been now navigating non-monogamy together for the last year and a half? When you go to parties, when you talk to people, how does it feel for each of you now versus pre that moment?
Can I go first?
Mm-hmm. You can go first.
So, yeah, that's a great question. One of the things is how I view my sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So our first lifestyle anything was in Desire, April of 19, and had some soft swap experiences. Just mind's blown with how amazing it was. The one thing that I walked away from it going, this is interesting. The women can, like, it's almost expected that the women are bi, but the men are supposed to be ultra uber straight. And I'm putting, what I realize now is I'm putting my own lived experience, like growing up, for a guy to be anything other than straight was just unheard of. But I walked away starting to question that straightness. And at these parties, I've been able to experiment with guys, and I am learning, neither one of us are big label people, but I use the term heteroflexible. Like as far as relationship, I am exactly where I want to be, but I am so grateful for spaces where I get to make out with guys and oral and all the stuff. Like it's been, in this last year and a half, it's just felt like I've settled into my own. It's also started us on a health journey. Like my alcohol was standing in the way of me being my best self. And I'm not villainizing alcohol. I'm not a teetotaler to this day, but I'm down 80 pounds. Jill's down 60 pounds. Like we're pursuing our health. We're working out. We're walking. We're eating good food. And it's this last year and a half has just been like life coming
together. Like it kind of all the pieces that we had worked so hard, all the communication and the personal growth and everything that we had done from 2019 till, so it would have been, September of 22. It kind of felt like the stars aligned all of a sudden for us. A lot of the tension of, where were we going to find the next party, or the one that we were both going to truly enjoy. That question got answered. Well, this sounds so almost crass, but our LS life got so much more efficient.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with efficiency. Like we all are doing a lot in life.
But we don't have to, we just keep meeting incredible people. And I would say we're part of the team of helping to find incredible people for to invite to the parties, vetting them. We've made incredible relationships.
And that circle just keeps expanding.
Yeah, it's not a tight circle. There's ripples that keep going out bigger and bigger. For me, one of the massive realizations that I had all of a sudden is I struggle to have fun and let my guard down in a place that doesn't feel clean to me. And all the clubs and stuff that we were going to were kind of nasty old hotels. And when I had this experience at a house party, I was like, oh, this is clean. I feel sexy here. I can totally let my guard down. And so that was just huge for me, so we did a couple house parties and then we tried a different event and it wasn't clean. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize that this was a really big deal to me, but it's a really big deal. I need it to be clean. Like I'm not a germaphobe even close, but
there's something to that for sure.
And even if you were a germaphobe, you know what you need now, too. Right? So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, the other great part about these parties is at the end of the night, everybody just piles onto the mattresses and just goes to sleep where they're at.
Finds our blanket and goes to bed.
And Jill is usually one of the first ones to go to sleep. She'll crawl over, get her blanket. She brings her blanket, her eye mask, and her AirPods, and she puts in binaural beats and just sacks out in the middle of all the fun. And what's great is I can keep, she'll go to bed at 2:00 in the morning, and I'll keep going till 3 or 4 or 5, and it just it works. It really works for us.
I play hard and I give everything I've got and then I'm done. And that's how I've always been. But we would go to these clubs and I'd 1:00. I'm like, this Cinderella's turning into a pumpkin. And he's like, oh, I'm just getting started. The party's just going. And I'm like, and how do we compromise? Right. So These house parties have brought a just marvelous way of compromise for us. I can just go find my corner and I get my beauty sleep and nobody has to worry about me turning into a pumpkin.
Well, and I just want to speak to the quality and safety that you have found, right? I will say for myself to feel like I could put on an eye mask and headphones at let's straight up, it's a sex party, and go to sleep. Like, no way in hell. And I mean, that's me, but I just, again, not to say, well, women are just these dainty beings, but right, the opportunities to have somebody mess with you or take advantage of you, any of us, right, in that environment, and you feel safe enough to like block out all of your senses and drift off to sleep, like that's an amazing environment that you've
So I've got
created.
to speak to that, because that was the first party. There's always single guys there. And I tell you what, they are just top notch, every one of them. But I watched them care for another woman and just verbally say no, like saw one stop the other and say, hey, she requires condoms. And I was like, oh, damn, this is so good, because there was just this level of communication and this level of care for each other that nobody was there to, everybody was there for pleasure, but not in a greedy, narcissistic way. And I mean, at the beginning of the party, we're always prepped that way, like, take care of each other. Listen, so there's a level of, thanks for bringing that out. There's a level of trust there that I had never experienced anywhere else. And like you say, for us women, that kind of trust is not an easy one to find. So we feel like we were just given a gift.
I love it. Well, and I think too, it speaks to the community, right? The community accountability in there. And I think too, just pulling it full circle around that scarcity mindset, or I think I often go into these things thinking about them as like an infinite game, right? Right. It's not how much can I extract out of the people at this party versus I want to come back next month and the month after and the month after and the month after. And so it's really on me and all of us to make this a place that exists next month. Because if we come in and we fuck it all up, it's not going to exist. And the amazing people aren't going to be there because they're not going to feel safe.
Exactly. Wow.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you helped me make sense of it even better. Thank you, Finn.
I'm here all day. I'm a motivational sex party speaker. I come in at the beginning, I just lay the groundwork, and then I'm off to the next one. Yeah.
I'm also curious, you two seems like you've really found a sweet spot here of where you're at, and where do you see yourselves going? Do you see any, do you have any thoughts of where you'd like to go, or shifts or anything?
So where do we see ourselves going? I don't know. But I have more trust and confidence in whatever's coming, whatever's next is going to be great. Like, so at this point, our dynamic is very much like it's probably fairly classic swingerish. Like, it's not poly, but yet I don't know. That's so.
We don't like labels.
We don't like labels, because the friendships that we have, we've got poly level friendships with people, but our relationship comes first. That may change as we have more time with the kids growing up and things like that. I don't know. I think there's always going to be some level of non-monogamy involved in our journey, some level of no clothes. Yeah, we both absolutely love spaces where we don't have to wear clothes, and where people aren't using shame and control to manipulate others. Like these parties, and I think these parties are part of our foreseeable future. If show me any church where you've got people raising both hands and saying, I love my life, shouting at the top of their lungs. Like, these parties are more of a spiritual setting than I've ever been in my life. And people are gratitude and thankfulness to be where they're at and living in the moment. I want moments like that for the rest of my life. I want moments where I can play.
Yeah. And I think if I think about where I see Jack and I going, we have learned so much about just being in the moment. Even while we have crazy busyness, swirling around us, way too much on our plate, kind of. But when you're living in the moment, who cares where you're going? Like, I get a picture of him and I, Jack and I holding hands, and we have a lot of laughter and a lot of gratitude right here in the moment. Who cares? Who cares what 3 months from now brings? I have no idea. But our track record's pretty amazing. We've made it this far, and really, we've had a really good time making it this far. Even with everything we talked about, threatening to jump off out of the vehicle on a bridge, we laugh at it now. We've survived. We've done more than survive, and we're going to continue. So where do I see us thriving, like hugely, magically. That's where I see us.
I want to get together in person with Finn and Emma again.
Oh, do I?
We're going to have to pick a better restaurant next time.
Yeah.
We would love that as well. And I also love what both of you shared, and that there's things you can look forward to in the future and all of that, and being present in the moment and being like just focused here and happy. And you're like, it doesn't matter what the future brings because we're here. We'll walk that journey.
One, you two have shown too, you've in some ways, and not even some, like in very real ways, you've sort of lived multiple marriages together. You've done the Mennonite, you did the Baptist, you've done let's call it the swinging without communication. And now you're on the like, hey, we hit our groove, and now we're sort of like, yeah, you don't care where you're going because you feel confident in your ability to go there together.
We have actually often introduced each other as this is my fourth husband.
It's real.
It is real.
It's very real.
And we all grow and change throughout life.
Yeah.
And the relationship grows and changes.
To have a magnificent relationship or marriage, if you want to use that term, you better not be, 5 years, 10, 15, you better not be married to the same person you were 5 years ago, because that's probably toxic.
Yeah. All right. So where I don't want to be 5 years from now is right where I'm at.
Oh, exactly.
Like, this journey is going to evolve, and that's as it should. It's as great as these parties are. We're not hosting them. They're not a given.
We're not in control of them.
Yeah, so. Life changes, and so, but some of the concepts we've learned is what we'll be looking for the rest of our lives, and how we create relationships and friendships and things like that.
How we create trust and safe containers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got all the ingredients, and now you get to put them together in whatever recipe you want for whatever season or marriage you're going to be in at that moment. I feel like that's a really great place to say we'll talk to you in 4 more years. Have a good day.
Hopefully sooner, but we really, really appreciate both of you coming back today, the update, and tying for the most appearances on our show. And
the vulnerability. You two shared some incredible, some incredible and vulnerable things about, right? Jack, you sharing that there was another infidelity even within non-monogamy, and your journey with both of your journeys with psychedelics, and just so much about.
I didn't intentionally skip over that.
No, not at all. I just am so grateful that we've got you two in our lives, that you two are a part of the history of what this project we've been doing for the last almost 6 years, and that you are, you're now record holders. So your trophy comes in the mail soon.
Love it.
Before we let you both go, is there anything else you want to get out there?
You know what? There's one thing. So obviously, Jack and Jill are pseudonyms, if the audience hasn't caught on to that. In our real lives, we are life coaches. And if this message resonates with anyone, it's not like we are going after lifestyle or non-monogamy people, but like my passion is working with people who are stuck. I've lived a lot of my life stuck and not knowing what's next, and not living, like, knowing that I could do more, do better, and haven't known how. And I've learned how to do that. And I would love to be a part of people's journeys if I could help them move past that. Jill?
And I would say my passion is beliefs, especially beliefs around who God is in your life, beliefs around shame, things that hold us back from living fully into our sexuality, or sexuality is just a part of our wholeness, but taking our sexuality, spirituality, which would be kind of our belief in a higher power, and putting that all into a bucket and living life from that. Again, that's been my journey. So it's what I'm super passionate about.
Yeah. So if anyone resonates with our message, get in touch with Feminine Emma and have them reach out to us. So
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think, first of all, I didn't know you two were going to throw that out there, which I'm so grateful you did, because we know for the last few years we've been hearing, and you, Jack, you and I used to talk a bit on the phone about your path and your journey. And I mean, all of the many businesses you've started and run for your whole life. And it's always been something I've admired about you. And you two have done, you're not just like, well, we've lived some life, we're going to be life coaches. You've done some training around this as well, as I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hit a point in this in 2023 where I just realized, if I don't do this, if I don't help others, I'm being incredibly selfish with what life has given me. And I've scraped the bottom. I've had some really tough things happen, and I've had some great things. And life is so worth living. And I want to share that. I want to help people with that. So,
yeah. Are you open to sharing which coaching or training programs you two went through? Or is that, I don't know how open you are about that.
It's been a lot of boots on the ground. Like we have our coaching businesses. But I mean, like Choices seminars, which they're not even around anymore.
And I've done a few with Tony Robbins. I have done disc profiling, so kind of just a lot of work around understanding some personality types. But I would say my biggest value has come through taking my own path and studying the psychology, especially around spiritual abuse, which there isn't a lot of published out there. So I've drawn from the wisest people I could find in understanding the brain and how the brain can be manipulated, especially at a young age, that creates that spiritual abuse. So that's, my path has been unsystemized, as is usual for me. I rarely take the path that most travel. It's been definitely the road less traveled.
Yeah.
And I'm still a student. I'll be a student for the rest of my life, because the connection between, I always like to say I take a scientific approach to spiritual abuse, because the connection between the higher version or a higher power or just a belief in becoming a better person which is basically, that's our spirituality, and our scientific brain and how our brain works it is such an incredible study. And it's so hope filled, because if you're struggling with trauma and, limiting beliefs, sabotaging beliefs, and you begin to understand how you can change and train your brain, you hold all the power. And it doesn't, you may have been experienced abuse for 30 years.
Yeah.
You don't have to heal for another 30 to finally feel whole. You can get going on your journey really quickly and find epic change pretty massively. I mean, we kind of started 5 years ago, and I'd say we're kind of living a dream life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
My tongue-in-cheek tagline is, let's start a cult.
the non-cult cult. Yeah. Let's start the thing we just spent our whole lives getting out of.
Right.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, and I just wanted to say too, there is so much value in your lived experiences. So I would say, even if you two hadn't done any official training that doesn't disqualify you, I just was trying to give you the opportunity to share if you did want to plug any of that, because I mean, clearly you two have walked the walk. And it's no bullshit. So I'm so grateful that you two came back again, that you've been on our show 8 times before. And just, I mean, for anybody listening, go back and listen to The Power of Witness and the work and journey you two did on that just over the course of a couple of months working with Catherine and that group is mind-blowing.
Yeah, we did that series back in January of 2021 for anyone who's searching through their podcast player trying to find it.
Yeah.
Yes. And plug for Catherine. Wow.
Yes.
We didn't say that, but we did multiple sessions with her and her crew, and it was so helpful.
Yeah.
Early on.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be here without Catherine and Michelle and
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, we will stop hyping up how amazing you two are. We'll let everybody get along with their day. We'll let you two get along with yours, and we will definitely have you back, and we're not going to wait as long. So,
and yes, I just want to say, yes, Catherine and her team are amazing. We love them as well. And
yes.
Thank you.
That's
both.
why you're tied for first with Catherine for a number of appearances on the show.
Right.
So
yes.
I love it.
Thank you both for everything, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back. Okay. Your turn.
No, I was just trying to same timer it with you.
Go for it.
I don't, oh boy. Thank you. I don't do this part.
I know.
Thank you, Jill and Jack and Jill, for coming on, for sharing your story, for your amazing vulnerability. And we are just very, very grateful. So we will not wait another 4.5 years to have you back on, but thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. As Finn said, it was just such a blast to get this update from you and to share. We're just excited to get this episode out there. So thank you again. A quick reminder to everyone listening, links to everything that we have talked about today are in the podcast show notes over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com or in your podcast player.
Along with photos of Jill and Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Go check them out. Next week, a quick reminder, we do have a virtual meet and greet tomorrow. That is March 7th. You can sign up at our website on in the banner at the top of the homepage. And next week, we got another interview.
We do. Shockingly, we have an interview with Nikita. We are super pumped about this one. It is fantastic, as one would expect. And until then, I guess we'll just say see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow at the virtual meet and greet.
Oh, you know what? We would love it if you would send us some questions for our Ask Us Anything.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
So if you happen to be one of the people who's still somehow listening to this, we would love to have you send us a question. Send us a voicemail on our website under the podcast tab. There's one that says Ask Us Anything. That's how you do that.
All right.
All right.
Please do that.
Please do it. We will see you all next week or tomorrow or soon.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.